I don't think a lot of people realize that writers have been having to do side gigs to make a living for like the past 10 years. Like
Yeah.
I see a lot of writers out there like, I want to quit my day job and be a professional writer. And I'm like, professional writers have to have a day job. We have on a great guest today, award-winning screenwriter, director, and comedian Timothy Michael Cooper. Thanks for being on.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love your podcast and I love talking about writing.
Oh, well, then we're gonna get along just fine.
Excellent.
Uh, so you've done 365 log lines in the past where you did one log line a day, which is incredible. And now you've done 365 short stories a day. So like walk me through what this is, this kind of this grand feat that you've accomplished here.
Thanks. Well, hopefully I can keep it going for the rest of the year, but I think I can because we're in the middle of it right now. So yeah, this is called 365 short stories, and that's the URL to 365shortstories.com. And I was kind of looking for an outlet of how to get my scripts out there and my ideas out there. And I started this on January 1st, 2023. And now it's August 2023. And this was before the strike. So I didn't even know that I mean, you could kind of see it coming on the horizon, but we
Yeah,
didn't know
right.
for sure it was coming. But even before that, I work with so many writers. I'm a writer, director, I'm a script consultant, I'm a script doctor. And, we were all talking about how this is, a common refrain, how frustrating it can be to be a screenwriter because it takes so much legwork and so many years of working on a script. And even at the end of it, you might never see it on the screen, or you might see it on the screen and then it goes away really fast, depending on what outlet it's on. And so I really was hoping I was racking my brain for a way to just as writers, I'm sure you experience this too. We have so many concepts, so many ideas, and you have to really think through them and think what do people actually care about? What is going to sustain a whole short film, a whole feature film, a whole pilot, a whole
Hmm.
series? Um, and you have to kind of give it things that test just by necessity. And I help other writers test that every day. And I was like, what wouldn't need a test? What could you just, what's a way to just get your idea out there? And I'd already done 365 log lines. And so I was like, okay, that was manageable. It was still a lot of work. And, I'm certainly not the first to think of this, but short stories. And what if they were really short stories? And so you might be familiar, or a lot of short story writers are familiar with the dabble, which is a type of microfiction, and it's exactly 100 words long. And when I, started thinking about that, I was like, that is something I could do. Because at the end of the year, that's only 36,500 words, which isn't nothing. That's a lot of ideas, but it's a way to just get it out there and get it into the world. And whether they ever go anywhere else or not, it doesn't matter. It's already out in the world, which isn't that what we're always aiming for as writers? I don't know. What do you agree, Geoffrey?
I have a couple of thoughts. My
Yeah.
first thought is not, well, I guess let me clarify. Are you hitting exactly 100 words every time?
Every time it's exactly 100
Okay,
words, no more, no less.
so let's make this impossible feat of doing 365 short stories. How do we up the stakes as a traditional screenwriter would? Well, let's put 100 word cap on it too. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you have my respect, man, because you're really setting a bar here. You're not just throwing out 30 words and calling it a short story. Like you've created um this template that you're going to stick to, which is I mean, I would find it overwhelming, but you look like you're doing great. I'm looking at some of them right now and they're really cool. I could tell you my favorite is The Crow.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
yeah,
I love that one. I'm really glad you like that.
yeah. I just think it's so interesting. Actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to read it. If
Please, I
if
would be
you're okay with
honored.
that. All right. So this
Yeah.
is The Crow. This is 100-word drabble. Ever since I became a crow, things have been better, simpler. My focus is always on baubles, shiny little treats, necklaces, earring backings, bits of aluminum foil, the occasional coin. Sometimes I recall, with minimal fondness, what it was like to be a human. Back then, the baubles got less thrilling the more I possessed. Now each one is a treasure, worthy of a caw, a shriek, an appreciative head tilt. In the murder, I am rich beyond all imagination. That spell, though meant to be a punishment by the witch, was the best thing to ever happen to me. I just thought, personally, when I read The Crow, I was like, wow, what a cool perspective and something original that I haven't seen done before. And that's when something grabs me because everything's been done, right? But where have you seen a story about a uh, uh, a curse that the guy took a different perspective and appreciated it. You know, instead of something like Thinner, where the guy's getting thinner, he's trying to fight it. Here you have a curse, and he's like, "Man, life is easier. I'm rich. I've got this coin. This thing is shiny. You know, I don't have to worry about social media or anything." So I just think it's what a cool perspective. And if this is what you're
Thank you.
doing, taking these angles, absolutely, I see a lot of success coming out of this.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And thank you for your excellent reading. And that's one of the benefits of this. You'll notice, uh, you probably noticed that a lot of them are from first person perspective because for one thing, that's a perspective that we don't often get to appreciate or get to execute in screenwriting because you're always on the outside. You're looking at somebody. Yes, you could have voiceover here and there, but that's more the realm of storytelling. So the cool thing about this is that just it doesn't have to sustain a whole series, a whole TV
Right.
series or anything. It's just let's get inside this crow's head, this cursed person's head who is now a crow, and just going inside. I love to go inside the mind of a computer, the mind of an alien,
Yeah,
the
I love
mind
that.
of an explorer, the mind of a time traveler.
So if I'm a writer and I'm blocked and I need inspiration, I would go to 365shortstories.com and then I would find one of these like The Crow and I would use it as a writing prompt and I would contact you and be
Mm-hmm.
like, look, this has really inspired me. You know, do we partner on this? Can I be inspired by this and write my own version of it?
Mm-hmm.
And then work it out from there because I can see that being really a cool idea.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's funny, I did the 365 log lines project, which is still up. That's also the URL, 365loglines.com. And I still get people contacting me, that was a while, that was years ago, and I still get people
Yeah.
contacting me and saying, could I license this? It inspired
Yeah.
me to write a short, to write a feature. And I'm like, great, let's talk.
I love that. But what I really like about this is because you see a lot of AI software coming out right now that is all about writing prompts. And as far as AI screenwriting goes, that's what I would back. I would back AI software that worked like a Clippy, that worked like I don't know
Yeah,
if I'm dating myself here, if you know what Clippy is,
I
but
do. I
Microsoft where it
do.
had to help to yeah. So if you had AI software that worked like a Clippy, where it was like, hey, here's an idea, and then you can roll with that and use it like a writing partner to bounce off, I have no problem with that. I have a
Mhm.
problem with replacing writers. I don't have a problem with inspiring writers, which is how I view it. So what I
Sure.
like about this is that it is like writing prompts, but it's Timothy Cooper. He's sitting down, he's doing it. He's a real live breathing dude. And I love that. So walk me through your process of
Mhm.
getting there because it like I said before, it is a daunting task to say, hey, I'm going to spend an entire year every day. coming up with a cool sense concept. Now I know some writers use like transcendental meditation. Other writers, have a specific like writing nook that they have in their home that is just writing. So like, if you don't mind, like, what is your process? Is it black magic?
Right. Well, here's where I reveal that I only used AI to write every single one. No, not at all. Nothing like that. I, you know, I start by just, and I do this for screenwriting every single day. I'm jotting down multiple ideas
Cool.
and just anything, something that comes to me. Might be, walking to the subway. It might be, doing the dishes, whatever it is. But I'm just writing them down. And then once you get into a mode of you're working on a feature, you're working on a pilot, you're working on short stories, then suddenly you're like, well, that could be a short story. That could be a short story. That could be a short
Cool.
story. So I start by just listing some prompts here and there, like a sentence, like you know, what if a guy, found himself reawakened after 300 years of being a corpse or whatever. So I'm just writing those down. And so now within days, the list was hundreds of bullet points, hundreds of just concepts. And usually I will just write an asterisk next to the ones where I'm like, this could really have something. And then I go back to those later and I'll just start brainstorming. I'll just start blue skying.
So with this distillation process that you have, you get inspired by, a computer. Do you and you kind of reduce that down to what you think you can get a story from. When I mind map myself, I have branches coming off of my original concept. So I can find sometimes alternative stories within that concept. Are you finding that one point of inspiration can lead to multiple different stories?
Yes, definitely at times. And I find myself, sometimes really obsessing with a particular concept, and that will lead to multiple stories.
That's cool.
So, as you can imagine, consciousness and reincarnation
Yeah.
and certainly time travel and time and memory erasure and false memories. These are concepts that you'll see come back over and over. So one of the criteria is, have I covered this too much? Am I just kind of saying the same thing over and over about dreams or whatever? If so, then I might do some brainstorming on that and then cross it out and be like, I've covered this one too much. So I'm really going through those bullet points of those. At this point, it's hundreds of ideas I haven't used, that I've just been like, you know what, I've already covered this area too much. What
Yeah.
is something that would really pop out? What is something that really gives an emotional hit by the end of those 100 words, where it really makes you hopefully think and really feel something, whether it's comedy or whether you're sad after reading it.
So so I think the sci-fi broad genre you have is perfect for this concept that you or for this task that you're doing because there's so much diversity within sci-fi, horror, and fantasy. So I love that you're doing that. Now I believe as writers, we always write from theme. And so do you find an overall theme? I mean, I think I know what it is, but I'm
Oh,
interviewing you.
I'm very curious to hear what it is, because I'm not sure what it is. I I want to hear your answer, but if I had to say off the top of my head, I would say
Objection, he's leading the witness, Your Honor.
exactly. I would say I'm always fascinated by what it's like to what it would be like to be someone or something else. So, and the
Interesting.
broad scope of that would be empathy for others,
Yeah.
getting outside of your own space, your own, obsessions about yourself, your own worry about how you look to others, and really focusing on what it must be like to live other lives, and not
Yeah,
just other humans' lives, but other entities' lives. And you can hopefully tell that because some of my stories, or many of my stories, are from the perspectives of things that don't exist, or things that don't have brains, like
right.
objects
But
or spirits.
it's interesting because I was going to say reflections on humanity, but I
I think
think
we're
it
saying the
works.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because it works the same way because you're taking a reflection of humanity from a different perspective. So you're stepping outside of it and showing the flaws and the successes. And I think that's like such a cool way of doing it, in which you can do in a sci-fi genre perfectly. So you can comment safely on all of those different aspects of humanity in sci-fi. It's kind of like a moral cheat sheet because you can't talk about these things up front to somebody because they get triggered, especially in today's society. But if we veil it behind the sci-fi genre, now we can talk about it, right?
A
We
100%. I
Yeah,
think that's always been one of the joys of sci-fi for me, which my dad loves sci-fi, and he's the one who first got me interested as a kid, and I was obsessed with sci-fi stories and novels and movies. And I think the benefit, the joy of sci-fi is that it allows you, it's never about the alien, is what I'm always talking about with my clients, right?
exactly.
It's never
Yeah.
about the technology. It's never about the actual space travel. It's about how does that reflect on today and our optimism for humanity today.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. So I'm going to go back way earlier in the conversation because you talked about the struggles of being a screenwriter, and something that I also wanted to add in there is not only do you spend like a year or longer or shorter, depending on the writer, building the script and to get it made, but it also changes. It changes significantly. Now you're a writer director, you've been able to make your own stuff, but I'm sure you've experienced those moments where you had a project and it just went kind of out of control, and at one point you didn't even recognize it, but it's still your project. And that is part of the process that you kind of have to be okay with. And I think some writers out there who haven't experienced that yet, it can be a shock. And so I like to let them know, everybody's going to get a piece of this thing once it starts getting heat and starts picking up pace. You're gonna have to accept the fact that it may not even look the same.
Mhm.
And that's when I suggest, if you can't handle that, be a writer director. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yes, absolutely. If you can be a writer director, you can have more control of your own stories. At the same time, you're still beholden to, producers. Your producers will have notes. Your funders will only want to fund certain things, and they might want to say in it too, unless you happen to, have a bunch of millionaire relatives, in which case,
Go
contact
for it.
me. My contact information is on the 365 short
365shortstories.com.
stories.com. Exactly. But you know, that's exactly, you're exactly right. We're working for eyeballs, and that's just part of it. And I always say, there are some projects that are best for becoming a novel, becoming a short story, becoming, you could be a painter. You could just journal or paint for yourself. That is really all right. But if you are putting your work out there as a screenplay, it's going to have, eventually, if you're lucky, dozens, hundreds, even thousands of people working on it, and they all have a say. They all have a part of making it something, which I don't regard as a bad thing. I regard that as, that can lead to amazing collaborations. However, I and you and all screenwriters have been a part of the process of it becoming something totally different, just like you said.
Yeah.
And
And it,
if you're not okay with that, then to me, short stories and the like are the way to go.
right. And it can become something better. I mean, I worked on a project that got made,
Mhm.
and it turned into something completely different, but better. And I was like, I didn't even view it that way, like when I was writing it. So there are you're not the end all be all. You have to be
No,
open
no.
to that collaboration, and then you have to humble yourself and be like, wow, this is like a better version than I did. And it still
Exactly.
gets made, you
Exactly.
know? Yeah,
Exactly. And having having collaborators whom you really trust, you better trust them for a reason. They're really good at
yeah,
what they do. Cinematographers, production designers, actors,
yeah,
producers, everybody on board. And so editors, and that's a great thing. That will make you better. And I tend to think that for the most part, when writers or writer directors get too much power and just money just flows their way, that's when unfortunately the magic also goes away
yeah.
because they have no guardrails on anymore and they could just do anything.
I 100% agree with you. I think if you hit that quote auteur aspect of your
Mhm.
career, things can definitely go haywire. All right, Timothy, I don't want to keep you all day. I really enjoyed talking with you. Is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have?
Well, this has been fantastic. I think something that we didn't get to hit on, but I think people might be interested in is the speaking of AI, are the illustrations
Oh yeah,
uh,
they're
for
pretty
the
cool.
for the website, and I am using Midjourney for that. Um, Although lately I started, as you may have seen, experimenting with something else, which is AI videos on something called Runway Gen 2, um, which is really fascinating. And it is so Midjourney generates images from prompts, and some of the so I think the images have been really fun and they really attract people's attention. And then just experimenting a little bit with Runway, it makes not just images but entire 4-second videos. And I just started with this last week, and it is amazing what it can do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the videos and they are really eye-popping. And then the still images look like movie posters. I mean, just really cool stuff. So,
Yeah,
and
just
the fact
wanted
that you're able doing that is pretty fantastic.
thanks. Yeah, and I wanted people to help envision what, you get people in with the poster, to the story.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a visual medium, right? So
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
making it pop. All right. Well, it's Timothy, I want to say thanks again, 365shortstories.com and 365 loglines, right?
absolutely. And I just also want to mention, and all my, you can follow me in all the different media from or contact me on that website, no joke. And just to support fair wages for actors, writers, crew, and everyone else during this strike. I want to promote that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We are definitely backing the WGA and the Actors Guild, and they're going in a talk soon. So
Fingers
hopefully,
crossed, but
yeah,
we
things
we
will
have the
move the needle.
yeah, but we have I think this every time I'm out there picketing, the spirit is there, and we'll do this as long as it takes, so that everyone is treated fairly, given how much
Absolutely.
I think we provide to increasing the enjoyment in the world.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that writers have been having to do side gigs to make a
Mhm.
living for like the past 10 years. Like
Yeah.
I see a lot of writers out there like I want to quit my day job and be a professional writer. And I'm like, professional writers have to have a day job. Like it's that ugly with the way residuals have been reduced or flat out, gone,
Eliminated. Yeah.
or
Hmm.
you work on a show and they pull the show, so then anything you were getting is just disappears.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely pulling for the strike to really have that effect and give some leverage. And
Yeah, that's the hope,
yeah.
because that is the reality of what we do, and I still feel privileged to do it, but there's I'm trying to think of almost any writers I know, and it's just a handful, even the most successful, who don't also work
Yeah.
other jobs, and that's just sort of part of the game. But it would be really nice if
Right. I think it's the thing
that
nobody
we were
talks
to
about,
correct that.
I think is I have a side gig I run.
Mhm.
And there's no shame in it. I mean, you have to make a living, but when you have what we're doing, there's your passion and what you love to do, and then there's, hey, I gotta pay for this insurance. So
Right. And the
it's
idea is
nuts. Yeah,
there is enough income that is being generated by the entertainment industry in the
absolutely.
billions upon billions of dollars that
Exactly.
there's enough to go around, you know?
Exactly. I totally agree with you.